Welcome back to the Whole Nine Yards podcast. Drew PN with Brandon Kokorian here on a Monday evening. You guys on the radio will be hearing this at about Wednesday at 6, so as of right now, the trade deadline has yet to conclude, but we've still had some pretty interesting trades done so far. Some pretty interesting games in Week 8, namely the Steelers and the Ravens, the AFC North matchup. Steelers ended up staying undefeated, but we'll start off with the AFC East matchup. Patriots, my favorite team, at the Bills. Brandon?
Yeah, I'll start this one before I know you want to rant a little bit, so we'll get into that in a couple minutes. But first, I just want to say from an unbiased opinion that this game was a must-win for the Patriots if they wanted a chance to get to the playoffs. I think now that they lost, they're 2-5. I don't think that they can get into the playoffs 2-5, even with 3 wildcard spots. Obviously, the division's gone, especially with losing this game. Can't lose this game and try to win the division. And that last drive, I was watching that last drive. I thought they were definitely going to at least get a field goal, if not a touchdown. Obviously, a touchdown, they would have won the game there. Field goal, won in overtime. Who knows what would have happened? But I think that play where Cam fumbled, I just think that's a play that is happening to this year's Patriots team. I don't think that happens to a Tom Brady-led Patriots team in the past. Where not say that Brady would have fumbled, but anyone would have fumbled. I just think that's what Brady does. The presence that he has is that everyone gets elevated, and I'm just not sure that Cam. I don't think Cam's that guy at all. That people elevate their game, and it was clearly seen yesterday on Sunday against the Bills and this whole season. So this is a game where I think it really shows. I don't know what your opinions are on Belichick after this game, but obviously he's still the greatest coach in NFL history, but I mean, they have a lot of injuries and they had COVID opt-outs, but it's definitely not looking like a good season for the Patriots. So what are your thoughts on that?
I guess I'll just start off with Cam Newton. Just a really dumb play. I thought that, and I still think with the Bills, something that does hold them back is Josh Allen's lack of awareness and lack of being able to realize when the right time to make a hero play is. And I thought that might end up costing the Bills this game, and it seemed like it was going to. The Patriots had driven down the field. Newton had looked not bad. He'd been running very well. And it all changed once he fumbled, really. I forget the guy's name. I think it was Zimmer that forced that fumble. And it was something that I'm just not used to as a Patriots fan. I'm used to being like, wow, Josh Allen just made this really stupid play in the playoffs and it's going to cost them the game now. Or, wow, Bill O'Brien is such a horrible coach. If only he could, be competent and they'd be able to win a playoff game. Or, wow, Marvin Lewis, like every single year they get to the playoffs, he somehow finds a way to lose the game. And the roles felt reversed. Newton just made a dumb play, trying to do a little bit too much, not being aware of, hey, we have at least an overtime here, or at least the field goal to try to get to overtime. And I don't think he was necessarily thinking of that when he ran. Just a really bad play, and it did cost us the game. That was, in my opinion, a must-win. Thinking back on it, I guess I don't know if it's necessarily a must-win because I still think the Patriots, I guess it's just because they're the Patriots. I still think they have a very, very small chance to end up making the playoffs. I'm not going to rule them 100% out. Obviously, they're not technically mathematically out, but neither are like the Jets and the Giants. So I'm not going to rule the Patriots out yet. I still do think with Belichick, they have a chance to just find it and have it click. But it's not looking good. Like you said, the COVID opt-outs, losing Hightower before the season and Chung. You lost Marcus Cannon on the offensive line too. Just a lot of core players that weren't necessarily always the best players on that team. At least back in the day when you had Brady and Gronk. 2014 you had Revis. You still have Gilmore. So they weren't always the best players. But they're players that contribute to the Patriot culture and the Patriot way. And I feel like that's been lost at least a little bit. Obviously, losing Brady, that kind of changes things. I don't know that Newton is, kept a great attitude all the time. He seems just, after that loss, he just, it slightly annoyed me of how, sad he looked. I guess I'm used to like the Belichick and Brady, and when they lose in the regular season or in the playoffs, it's just, go shake hands, get back in the locker room. And sometimes Belichick was a bit of a sore loser in post-game conferences, but on the field at least, I don't know. It felt weird watching Cam after that loss. I don't know. The game just felt really weird. I don't think the Patriots played absolutely horribly. The offense did look inept, especially early on in that game, the first quarter. I forget what the stat was, but we still don't have a first quarter touchdown this year, maybe even point. It's horrible. The receiving, like I've said, basically every episode of this podcast, absolutely horrible. The running game didn't look bad. Damian Harris looks pretty good, actually. I think he's an upgrade over Sony Michel, which just shows that you don't need to spend a first-round pick on a running back, at least if he's not going to be like Ezekiel Elliott in his prime or Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey quality. The defense looked okay. Allen was Allen today. Other than, the first 4 weeks of the season, we've seen how Allen has played throughout his career. He definitely felt like that Josh Allen. Not having Gilmore, unfortunate. I don't think with Gilmore you win that game, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Stephon Diggs did have 6 receptions for 92 yards. So maybe you do win that game. I don't know that you do, though. I don't know if the offense played quite well enough to be able to win that game.
Yeah, I just think it was more the offense, not the defense. Because even though Diggs had 92 yards, the next leading receiver was 24 yards on 2 catches. Yeah. So they weren't doing anything through the air. They only threw the ball 18 times. It was really the run. They ran the ball 38 times, and they had close to 200 yards on the ground. And that's where they got their 3 touchdowns from. So I think it was more the offense. I just don't think the offense played. Even though they were able to run the ball also, like you said, Harris, he looked pretty good yesterday. 16 carries for 102 yards. But I think it really comes down to they have no skill position players on the outside. Edelman wasn't playing yesterday, but it's not like Edelman would have done anything if he was playing.
He would have, yeah.
Yeah,
you still don't win that game with Edelman, I don't think.
No, I don't think you do either. This year's Edelman, no way. But I think it was more the offense, and I think even with how bad they played, they still had a chance to win the game.
Yeah.
They were in, it was at the 20-yard line that he fumbled, or 15-yard line. So they still had a chance to win the game with how bad they were playing. So
situationally, Belichick didn't have a bad game, but still, I don't know. I just felt that. I don't know. I guess you just have to look at Cam Newton and be like, play better. You have to look at the receivers and just say play better. I don't know. We just don't have the talent. Like you said, the skill position players aren't good. Going back to the defense for a second, the front 7 is just not good against the run. If you look at the course of the regular season so far, it hasn't been easy to stop the run in most games. Our linebackers are absolutely horrible, especially with the loss of Dante Hightower from the opt-out. I think Juwan Bentley might be our best linebacker. I don't know, but he's not good. We don't have a single good linebacker. We lost Kyle Van Noy through free agency, and he wasn't ever the best player, but he did his job, and he did his job well. And in the Patriots scheme, that's super important to have at least one or two of those players on the defense at all times. And I got a notification on my phone this morning. It was from Yahoo Sports, and because I have like the app on my phone, and it said like the Patriots need to embrace a full rebuild. And so I just thought about it for, I don't know, a bit. And I was like, maybe Yahoo Sports is right. Realistically thinking, obviously it's football, so anything can happen if the Patriots were to squeeze into the playoffs. And that's not a team that the Kansas City Chiefs or the Ravens want to play necessarily. Like, you'd rather probably play the Colts if the Patriots did make the playoffs, which means they had the record to make it. You'd probably rather play a team like the Colts or the Browns. But taking a step back and looking at this team, can this team make the playoffs? And if they do, can they win the Super Bowl? My answer is no. You'd have to add skill position players, plural, probably, unless you're trading for like a Julio. And even then, I don't know if that's enough to do it. So maybe embracing the full rebuild is, maybe it's time. Maybe you trade Gilmore for whatever you can get. Maybe you trade, I don't know, Edelman for whatever you get, if you can even trade Edelman. You trade whatever running backs you can get. Like, you trade them away. If you have to trade Joe Tooney, he's on the franchise this year, left guard, but he's been swinging around. But he's basically an all-pro caliber left offensive lineman. Shaq Mason, maybe if you want to, I don't know. Anybody's on the block, though. Like, if you're trying to embrace the full rebuild, you're trading everybody right now. And I don't know. I don't know if Belichick's willing to admit defeat. I don't think he wants to look bad this year. I think this year is very important to him. I think, when you're the greatest coach of all time, or one of them, you don't have many things to fight for your legacy. Obviously, winning Super Bowls would only add to that. But one question that everyone has is it Belichick or is it Brady? And, I mean, this year so far, it's looking like it's, Brady's proving that it was mostly him. I'm not going to say that it's mostly Brady. I think it's a 50-50 split, and if you made me pick a side, I think I'd go Belichick 50.1, Brady 49.9. But still, there's going to be people that question that, and this is Belichick's year to prove it. After this year, whatever people make up their mind on this year, they're going to make it up. If Brady wins the Super Bowl and Belichick goes 5-11, that's not going to look good for him. So he needs to, for his legacy, if he cares about it, which I know he does, he's going to want to play well this year. He's going to want to make the playoffs, even if they don't win the Super Bowl. He has to look like a great coach without Brady.
The only thing is I just don't think they can even make the playoffs. I mean, I think you want them to make the playoffs, but I just don't think their team's good enough to get. I mean, how many wins do you think they'll need to get the third wild card spot? 8?
To get the third wild card spot, guaranteed.
9?
To get a really good chance at it, 9. 8 would be like maybe you get it, maybe you don't. 10 would be guaranteed.
I mean, they're scheduled. They do play the Jets next week, Monday Night Football. I mean, you'd hope they win that game. I think they easily should. I don't know why they wouldn't, but they play the Jets twice this season. They still have to play them twice, so that you would hope would be 2 wins right there. They still play the Dolphins once or twice.
Once.
They play them one more time. So, I mean, the Dolphins. I mean, they won against the Rams yesterday, but I mean, Tua. It was his first start, but I mean, their offense did nothing yesterday. They had they had a defensive touchdown and a special teams touchdown. So that's really what won them that game yesterday. But you'd hope that those are 3 wins right there. That gets them to 5, and you have to win 3 to 4 more games, outside of your division.
The Patriots' schedule definitely softens up over the latter half of the year. You do have the Ravens to play, but you get like you said, you get the Jets twice, you get the Texans, you get the Chargers, you get the Rams. They're not really great. Like they're probably not as good as the Ravens right now. I think you can squeeze in at an 8-8 or a 9-7. Is it probable? Definitely not, especially considering how they've played. I guess I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, I mean, it's up to Belichick on if he wants to blow it up and start building assets, or if he wants to keep pushing and thinks this year is a valuable year to try and make the playoffs. Not exactly sure what he thinks. We'll move on though to probably the best game of the week. The 6-0 Steelers and then the 5-1 Ravens going into this week. The Steelers advanced to 7-0 after beating the Ravens 28-24. My initial thoughts in that game, again, I know I hate to go to the quarterback, but it is the most important position on the field. It just goes to Lamar Jackson. He didn't play well. I think teams have they probably started to, at the latter half of last year, figure him out. I think at this point they've figured him out. There's not really much to say. He's a running quarterback, obviously, and he still has potential to get better. If he can get elite in the air, then the sky's the limit for Lamar. But right now he's just not that. He missed numerous throws in that game. There was I think it was 3rd and 1 or something, and he missed. And this was their last drive. He missed Mark Andrews on an easy first down. I think they converted that 4th, but still missing a lot of throws, interceptions. It just wasn't a good game. I think their defense played well enough. I mean, they did play well enough to win that game. Lamar Jackson had the chance to win. Overall, just not a great showing by Lamar. The Steelers' defense, got to give them credit though. They're probably the best in the league right now. Mike Tomlin's done a great job. I'm not a Mike Tomlin fan by any means. I even thought that there was an argument to fire him numerous years prior to this one. He's proving me wrong so far. They'll have to win the Super Bowl for him to legitimately prove me wrong. But so far, he's proving me wrong.
Yeah, I've always liked Mike Tomlin as a coach. I mean, maybe it's just because you're a Patriots fan. You thought he maybe should have got fired because they couldn't beat the Patriots. But I've always liked them, and I think their defense is definitely one of the top defenses in the league, but they definitely seem to have lapses at times in games. They're definitely not good against the run. I mean, in this game, Lamar was terrible. His completion percentage was 46%. He had 4 turnovers, which, I mean, considering how good the Ravens defense played with having to go against 4 turnovers from Lamar. I think that's a testament to how good the Ravens' defense is. And you could say they gave up 28 points, but, I mean, if you give up 4 turnovers, it's hard not to let the other team score off those turnovers. So I think we talked about this last week, that Lamar is just not the guy. Well, maybe not say not the guy, but he's not. Even though he won MVP last year,
he's not the Mahomes guy. He's not that guy. He might be the guy, but he's not.
He's like, I think he's a B. If you're going A or B, he's a B guy, I would say.
Maybe. I think he might even have a category. I don't even know what the category is. We might get into that a little bit later. I'm not sure, where you'd rank him. I guess we'll find out about that later. Looking at the Ravens receiving core, I know there's been some rumors about maybe they need to make an addition. I think they do. I think they could use another piece. Golden Tate's been mentioned as one of those pieces. We'll also get into that a little bit later. Looking at the Steelers, though, this is a team I slept on, and many people slept on. I thought they'd be like an 8-8 team, maybe competing for that third wild card spot, but I also could have seen them just like Ben Roethlisberger gets back. He's not good. Juju Smith-Schuster is a 2, not a 1. James Conner's an average running back, nothing more than that, and they're done. The defense, probably was going to be great. I didn't know that it was going to be the best or one of the best defenses in the league. Fitzpatrick is obviously, he's great. TJ Watt is obviously great. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think about the Steelers team going into the year? I mean, I'm surprised for sure.
I didn't think they'd be undefeated. I don't think anyone did, but I definitely thought they'd be like 10-6, 9-7. I had faith in them, at least more than you did.
I mean, you put the Steelers team as they're the only undefeated team left. Do you put the Steelers team as the best team in the league right now? Or
no, I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFC. I mean, in the NFL. I think it's like clear that they're the best team. I would say the Steelers, depending on, the Bucks play tonight against the Giants. I think they'll easily win that game, but I would probably say the Bucks are probably the second best team, and then I'd say the Steelers.
Yeah, I still have a tough time putting the Steelers in that same conversation. I just think that on paper, the talent isn't necessarily there. On offense, Juju Smith-Schuster's obviously he's a great player. He's probably like a great number 2, not a great number 1. Chase Claypool, he's played about as great as a rookie can play at that wide receiver spot. But again, I don't know. Is he is he a championship offense number 2? I don't know about that. Ebron's, he's good. I don't have any problems there. James Conner, I don't think you have to have an elite running back to win the Super Bowl, but it definitely helps. I don't think he's all that great. The offensive line is great. I think it comes down to the receiving and Big Ben. I think Big Ben's played well this year.
Well, I think it really comes down to his turnovers. If he can just limit his turnovers, then when it comes to playoff time, then I think they have a real chance. But
they do.
I still don't see them beating Kansas City, even if it's in Pittsburgh.
I think we'll have to get there when we get there. I don't see Pittsburgh winning that game, but as I just keep thinking about it and talking myself into it, there is no New England this year most likely. That's always seemed to trip the Steelers up, especially back in the day. I think the Steelers have a real chance. Obviously Ben's not as good as Mahomes, but I think you can make an argument that Tomlin is every bit as good as Andy Reid. They're different styles of coaching. Andy Reid's more of an offensive guy, Tomlin a defensive guy, but I think you can argue that Tomlin's just as good as Andy Reid. They both still have, problems coaching, but I don't know. I think the Steelers defense is really good, and I think the offense, if they're good enough, they can beat a Kansas City.
Yeah, their offense would have to play almost perfect, they'd have to play basically like perfect football on the offensive side if they want to beat Kansas City.
I think that's a possibility, especially, maybe if we get down into January territory, maybe, who knows, maybe there's a lot of fans in that stadium. I'd be very surprised, very, very surprised.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised about that.
If it's a full stadium, I'd be really surprised.
Well, it wouldn't be full stadium, but it would definitely be more than it is now.
Oh, for sure.
For playoff football and to make money, they'd put a pretty good amount of people in the stadium. It'd
have to be at least 60% fans, though, in my
opinion. Yeah, it'd be at least 50%, I would say. If it's an AFC Championship game, definitely.
Like, if the Steelers, if it's snowing, if it's a full stadium, like, I don't know. You never know with those types of games, especially if, who knows, maybe the Chiefs have an injury down the stretch. I'm not hoping that or anything. I have no interest in rooting against or for the Chiefs if they're playing the Steelers. But, I don't know. You never know. But I think the Steelers team is a real team. I think they're better than the Ravens. Obviously, they just beat the Ravens. I still think the Ravens might have an overall better roster, but Lamar Jackson's just such a big question mark. You never know what you're gonna get with him each week. So I'm interested to see how that plays out the remaining year. Moving on to a game that I certainly had a lot of takes about, the Saints and the Bears. I wanted Breeze to prove me wrong in this game. I wanted him to go in there and just huck it down the field and beat this Bears defense, and that's what he did. The game went into overtime, and, he got them where they needed to be. It was almost a tie. It might have been a tie. But Breeze led them down the field, and they were able to kick the game-winning field goal. Breeze, 31 for 41, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. He played his game. No super explosive plays on the Saints side. Alvin Kamara had not one of his awesome days, but he was a big part of them winning. He was probably their best receiver and their best running back that day.
Well, he was their only receiver. It was just him and Jared Cook, honestly, for the entire game. With no Sanders, no Thomas. I mean, it's just going to be them carrying the offense. But I think Breeze, we were talking about it last week about him in cold weather. I think he proved he could at least perform in cold weather situations.
He did.
I mean, he was 31 of 41 for 280 yards. I mean, that's just what he's going to do. He's going to throw a lot of passes, but it's going to go for 5 yards. But he had 2 touchdowns. He had no picks. I mean, that's probably the best. That's what you could hope for if he's going to have to play in cold weather. So,
yeah, I think he played his game, and you know what? I was underrating him, I guess. If he can do this in January, they can win the Super Bowl. Past years, he has not. I don't know if it's because of the cold weather. People have said that it was because he's just wearing and tearing down as the season goes on. Maybe that's true. Maybe I'm underrating that fact right now because we're only in week 8 right now. So maybe he does just get worn down by December, and by the time that it's December and he has to go to Chicago, or it's December and he has to go to Lambeau, maybe we're talking a different story, and Breeze just can't throw that ball more than 20 yards downfield if he has to. But as of right now, I just kind of have to tip my cap to Drew Brees. He proved me wrong. He made me look like an idiot last week. So,
well, I kind of want to know what your thoughts switching to the Bears side. Do you think they should keep Foles as starting quarterback, or go back to Trubisky?
I think you have to keep Foles as starter. I don't like the idea of flip-flopping back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And if you go to Trubisky, you're going to go back to Foles at some point, aren't you?
You would think so, but I mean, they were 3-0 with Trubisky, and I think they were going to switch no matter what happened. Because, I think Nagy just didn't feel that they could rather make the playoffs or do something in the playoffs with Trubisky. But I mean, it's not like Foles has been playing bad, but he also hasn't played good, and they've lost a couple games now. So I would say you probably keep him in a starter for their next game, and then depending on that, I think you make a decision.
I probably agree with that, but it's difficult. If the Falcons want to trade Matt Ryan right now, and the Falcons call you and say, "Hey, give us a first-round pick," I mean, I don't know if I'd do that. A first-round pick's a lot, but
yeah, I don't know if I'd do that for Matt Ryan. But I think if Matt Ryan's available, I think they should be the only team that should actually get him. They should be the ones.
They should probably be the team that picks him up. Yeah, if I'm the Bears, you'd have to consider a second-round pick right now. Would you not?
I think you probably have to.
You have to at least consider it. Maybe you can get that down to a third. I don't know, but would the Falcons even trade Matt Ryan for a third-round pick? I think you have to give him at least a second and maybe something else for them to consider it.
You'd have to entice them. I don't even know if they're really looking to trade Matt Ryan.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I know. So if you do get you'd have to give them something, probably a second.
I think you need more than. I think you need to give. I'm not. If I'm the Bears, I'm not giving up a first. If I'm the Falcons, I'm not expecting the Bears to give up a first. But I want a second and something else at least, or a second and 2 other things. Whatever. Maybe they're later picks, or maybe they're young or veteran players or something. Yeah, something like that. But the Falcons.
Maybe they get Trubisky.
No. The Falcons, they definitely don't see Matt Ryan in their long-term plans, but Matt Ryan can help them get to their long-term plan, whether that be the Alex Smith treatment. Next year they draft a quarterback, Matt Ryan finishes that whole year. After that, they get rid of Ryan, they bring their, whoever it happens to be up, and he plays. And I think there's definitely a very tangible value to that. And I think to give that up, you would have to ask for a good amount in return. I don't know if the Bears do that, though. But if you're not confident in Foles and Trubisky, which I'm not, you have to consider it. I'm not starting Trubisky.
If they think that they can get to the playoffs and win a game or two with, like, if they think they can do that with Matt Ryan, I think they should do that trade right away. But I don't know if they feel like that.
I don't know if I feel like that.
With the roster how it is, do you think that if they added Matt Ryan, they probably won't win they might win the division. I mean, who knows? But let's say they don't win the division and they're a wild card team. Do you think they can get to the championship game?
No.
With Matt Ryan?
No.
All right. Then
they have to win the division to get the championship game, in my opinion. And I think that's doable, though. I don't think the Packers are as good as we thought they were.
I don't think so either, but I think the Packers are better than the Bears are.
I think maybe they are, but if the Bears add Matt Ryan, and the tricky thing about trading for a quarterback at the deadline is he has to maybe have some familiarity with the system. I don't know if Matt Ryan would be able to just plug and play, but if he can, then I think the Bears have to consider that, because with Foles and Trubisky, I'm sorry, but you're not winning a Super Bowl. You're not. No. And if I'm the Bears, I'm considering trading for Matt Ryan. I think it's a good pickup, but I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't think it ends up getting done, but Trubisky's not the answer. I'm only putting Trubisky in if Foles is the very big reason that the Bears lose a game in the near future. Like if he plays like Lamar did against the Steelers, like that or worse, then I'll consider it.
Yeah, it'd have to be like a disaster game.
It'd have to be a disaster.
And they play
game.
the Titans next, so the Titans, they've lost 2 straight, but they're definitely still a good team. It's
the Titans are probably still a top 10. They're probably around.
They're probably like 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, they're in that territory.
So I think they're at home, the Bears, so that helps. But I would say based off that game, like if Foles just plays terrible, then they switch. But even if they lose and he plays good, I'd probably still keep him in.
I do too. I want to do anything to not have to put Trubisky in, because personally I just think he's bad. And I think Foles is better. I don't think it's worth trying to see maybe because he was the second pick, maybe he has some potential. We just haven't given him enough chances. How long has he had? This is his third year? Fourth year?
Fourth year. He was drafted in 2017.
Too long. I think the Bears have taken way too long to decide if he's the guy or not. It should have been decided by at the very latest this offseason, the one before us, the one we just finished.
Yeah, I think they were trying to give him one more shot.
I think,
but
that's
when they
way
made
too
the
many
decision
shots.
that early, I think they should have realized that they should have never given him that shot. If you're going to 3 games in and pull him when you're 3-0, then what was the point of giving him the shot anyways?
I don't know. Look at the Cardinals. Look at what they did. They drafted Josh Rosen a year later. They realized, this guy is horrible. He's horrible.
Yeah.
So let's just get rid of him. Let's trade what we can get. He was a high pick. They traded him to the Dolphins for a second-round pick, I want to say. You draft Murray. You get Kingsbury in there. Just like that. They're an up-and-coming team. And I get that it's unfortunate to have to part ways with a quarterback that you just drafted with a high first-round pick the year before. But honestly, I don't think the Bears were I don't think they questioned if he was the guy. And I think they always knew he wasn't, in the back of their heads at the very least. So I think at some point, what they should have done is they should have been all right, let's just be honest with ourselves. He's horrible. And get rid of him. Maybe after a year or a year or two, maybe you could have got something for him too. And moved on with this whole thing. But now it's a problem. So,
all right, now we're going to go to Niners Seahawks. We're mostly going to just talk about Niners, though. News came in today that Garoppolo is going to be out for 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain, and George Kittle has a broken bone in his foot, so he's going to be out for 8 weeks, but they said it's most likely season-ending. So this is kind of like what we were talking about last week. I mean, they were on the edge of how many injuries they could have to still be competitive, and now losing Garoppolo, even you say what you want to say about Garoppolo and his play, but he's still their quarterback.
It's better than Mullins. You can say that at least.
I don't know. Mullins, I mean, I think you need a really good team around Mullins to win, but
no, that's what I'm saying is he's better than Mullins.
Oh yeah, he's better than Mullins, yeah. But I mean, losing Kittle, I mean, they have so many injuries. It's just the season's just it's a wash for them, and it's nothing they really could do anyways. So
yeah, I think maybe you try to win games if you. I don't know. I mean, ideally you just lose a bunch of games. Kittle's done for the year. The only reason he wouldn't be is if for some reason you just go on a tear and win a bunch of games and you're in the playoffs. You'd come back maybe for the wild card game or whatever. But I think, this season's over. You have to reassess now. Is Garoppolo the guy? last year was the year to kind of make that call. I guess with the injuries, maybe it would not have been a good call to bring Brady in here. But if you do bring Brady in here last year, looking what he's doing in Tampa, you know, I'm sure John Lynch, that's his name, right? I'm sure he's looking at Tampa and be like, wow, like, you know, maybe if we did bring Brady in here, maybe if we did make a few more acquisitions in the offseason and really try to push this team, maybe we are the best team in the league. Because last year they were better than Tampa by a very sizable margin. And Garoppolo's, you know, he didn't play bad in the Super Bowl. He didn't play bad in any of the playoff games, really, but he definitely wasn't good. And if Brady's on that Niners team, there's a very solid chance that you win that Super Bowl.
Well,
and not that he would have been on that Niners team, but, you know, maybe you pick him up in this offseason, like last offseason.
Yeah, well, I have one question. Would you trade for Matt Ryan for the Niners? Not now, but in the offseason.
Not unless it's for cheap.
Only because Shanahan's the coach. Matt Ryan had his MVP year with Shanahan, and he's under contract until 2023. Now, he's an out after 2021, but, you know, if he's with Shanahan on the Niners, you know, he probably would stay in that contract. So it's something to think about, I mean, you know, because they're not going to – I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback.
I mean, it's something to think about, but – I mean, didn't we already see what happens when we put Matt Ryan with Shanahan? Like, didn't we already see it's just a little bit too much choke? Like,
well, I can't say that. I mean, he won
think
MVP that year.
Yeah, well, guess what? I mean, they choked a 28-3 lead.
I think that's, even though Shanahan technically did it again last year, I think that's something that will most likely never happen ever again in NFL history. That a team would
not
choke
a 28-3 lead, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't not pair him up only because of that reason. If you want to make up another reason, maybe not that reason.
I think that's the reason I go with, though.
I think that's a lame excuse.
It's not a lame excuse.
I think it is. I mean, he won MVP that year.
Ryan again.
The Falcons were one of the best teams in the league that year, and the Niners have a better defense than that Falcons team.
They were also one of the best teams in the league with Garoppolo. So why would I not just keep Garoppolo at that point?
Because Garoppolo's clearly not the guy.
Is Matt Ryan the guy?
I don't know if Matt Ryan's the guy, but I know he's better than. Who would you rather have, Matt Ryan or Jimmy Garoppolo? On a healthy 49ers team.
Are they healthy? Is Garoppolo healthy?
Well, Garoppolo's not healthy.
But is he healthy in this hypothetical situation?
Oh, well, yeah. They're both healthy.
Both healthy,
it's the Niners team from, like, it's the 2019 Niners, but you have Matt Ryan or you have Jimmy Garoppolo to lead you to the championship. Doesn't mean they have to win MVP, but it just means, you know, who would you rather have? I'd rather have
if they're both healthy and they're gonna both be healthy, then you know what, you can flip a coin and I don't care. Well, I think they're both kind of around the same place.
Well, I'd go with Matt Ryan. So
I don't know. I think Jimmy G could be somewhat close to Matt Ryan statistically if he were to play on that Falcons team in the dome with Julio Jones.
I disagree, but I guess sometimes we just disagree. So I guess we'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Should we go to our next game? Our last game? We're going to talk
Yeah.
Sunday Night Football, Cowboys, Eagles.
I'll let you start off on that one.
All right, I'll start it off. Okay. Right. So, obviously, me being the Cowboys fan here, I did watch the entire game. It was a competitive game for the first, 3 quarters, 2.5 quarters. Of course, our defense forces 4 turnovers when our offense can't move the ball past midfield. Like in the one game where we actually force turnovers and our defense plays well, we have no offense, of course.
It's not hard to play well against whatever that Eagles offense is, though, to be fair.
I think this game more shows how bad the Eagles are.
It shows how bad
they easily could have lost that game last night.
I was trying to watch that game last night, by the way. Like, I tried. And I guess
if I wasn't a Cowboy fan, I don't know if I would have watched that game.
It was so boring.
It was a very boring game.
That's your Sunday night game? Are you kidding me?
Well, before the season started, it was supposed to be a good game.
Like, you can switch things.
Yeah, but it's also, you're not going to flex a Cowboy-Eagle game. You know how much money that makes?
I don't care. It was such a bad game. I wanted to turn it off. I'm sorry. Ben DiNucci was horrible. But I'm not going to blame him for anything. You can't blame him. No, I'm not.
If Dalton's in that game, the Cowboys win that game.
Probably.
And they, like, with the way the defense was playing, I think they'd only have to. Well, I'll tell you, the game changed when the Cowboys were up 9-7 and they had the ball. They were driving. It was a drive they had. They had 9 plays, and 8 of them were runs. And then they had a pass on 3rd down that did nothing. But they were moving the ball on all those runs. They went from, I think, I don't know if they had their 20 or 30 or something, but they got it all the way to the Philly 25, 30-yard line. All on runs, all just up the middle, just basic runs with Zeke and Tony Pollard. And for some reason, they tried to do an end around, which they were doing a lot in the game, and it worked for a couple plays, but they tried to do it. They lost, I think, like 10 yards. And then the drive was over. They were out of field goal range at that point. They did another run that got a couple yards, and then did a pass that didn't work out. Then they missed the field goal. So you could have scored a touch. Let's say you even get a field goal. Now it's 12-7. The way your defense has been playing, I mean, the Eagles obviously were going to score at some point, but if it's 12-7, I mean, even if Philly scores a touchdown, you could just get another field goal and you're still up. So I think the game changed there, but then Philly went down and scored a touchdown, and that's when the game was over.
What's the point of having Ben DiNucci on that roster if you're going to if you're not even going to try to pass the ball? Like, what's the point of having him on that roster? Like, if you know he's horrible and there's nothing worse than that, like, what's the point of keeping him? Like, I don't know, bring anybody else in. Like, we talked about this last week. I was like, if Ben DiNucci's familiar with this offense, you've had the faith to keep him on the roster so far. Just play him. Like, there's no point in bringing somebody else in that has no idea of the offense. But, if you're not going to use any of the offense, if you're not going to, if Ben DiNucci's supposed to, like, be, if he's supposed to be familiar with the offense, why are you running like jet sweep and end arounds every other play?
Well, there's one thing I'll say to that is that Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, he's known for blitzing. Like, that's just what he does. He blitzes all the time. And I coming into this game, I thought he was going to blitz almost the entire game just to put pressure on him, because our offensive line, we got Zach Martin back, which obviously helped, but it's still not a good offensive line. So I was thinking they were going to blitz the entire game. They played coverage up until the fourth quarter. They were just playing coverage. Like, they were having 4-man rushes and occasional blitzes, but not even really. It was only on third downs. So I think that when you play coverage, then it's forcing him to read situations that's happening, and I mean he just can't read those situations. And I think it was pretty clear that he couldn't read what was going on. So I think that's why they were trying to do these end arounds and trying to do these crazy plays that would get the ball out of his hands. But I honestly, like, I know the season's obviously done for us, but like, if Andy Dalton was starting that game and we won that game, I think the division would clearly be ours. Even if we lost that game and Andy Dalton hadn't gotten injured, I think we'd probably still win the division.
I just don't understand the point of having that quarterback on your roster if he's just like, if you're not going to try to actually run the offense and stuff like that. Like, what's the point? Like, at that point, instead of having him, I'll just find some veteran free agent quarterback.
Well, that's the last game he's going to start, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, what's the point? Like, I'll bring in, I don't know, Cody Kessler. Like, I'd rather just bring in somebody that maybe can actually throw the ball, like, more than, like, one time. Like, I don't know,
It's just one of those it's one of those things that's only going to happen once anyways, so.
No, I don't know. I know. I'm kind of nitpicking, but it's also just, it doesn't.
Well, yeah, you want the ball to get into the playmakers' hands, like CD, Gallup, and Cooper. But I mean, like, you're right. Could they've just done like screens and like slants and stuff, and like occasional? I mean, he can throw the ball. Like, he does have a pretty good arm, but I don't know. It's tough. Like, if you were to put your shoes in Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, like, what would you have done? Like, could you really have done much better than what they thought that they could have done?
The second Dalton went down, I would have gone to Jerry Jones. And be like,
well, they also thought that he maybe could have played this week. So
I don't even care. We have to prepare for the fact that he's not. And I'd be like, the second that had happened last week, I'd be like, Jerry Jones, like, this guy's horrible. Because Kellen Moore clearly didn't think this guy was ever going to be ready to start this week or even start ever. So I'm just like, I don't know. If I'm Kellen Moore, I go to Jerry Jones. I say, you know what? Go find me any quarterback on the free agency market that is like actually started a game before. Is Drew Stanton a free agent? I think he's a free agent. Anybody like that? Anybody that's actually maybe been a backup, like a career backup, somebody like that. There's got to be somebody. Deshaun Kaiser, Cody Kessler, they're all horrible, right? But they got to be better than this. Maybe they're not. But they couldn't be worse than this. I can guarantee you that. Scoring 9 points against this Eagles team is just not – you can't get any worse than that.
Well, I mean,
regardless, you probably don't win that game anyways, so I'm not going to get all over it.
Same. I don't think you win that game anyways. So
looking at the Cowboys roster, look, with the trade deadline approaching, you have to think about trading some people that, might have been in your long-term plans. Are you trading Amari Cooper?
No, you don't. You don't. I don't think you trade anyone on the offensive side.
You trading Zach Martin?
No.
Okay.
Why'd you trade Zach Martin?
I don't know.
I mean, like, if you really wanted to, but the thing is, they're gonna be back next year. So.
I mean, are they?
Yeah, Dak's gonna be back next year.
The
So why would you not?
What about the defense, though?
Well, the defense you got to make changes on, but I think
How are you gonna?
you're gonna have a top 15 pick this year, if not top 10, probably top 10. So you need someone in the secondary. You either need a lockdown corner or you need like a Jamal Adams type safety. Like that's what you need.
Earl Thomas is still on the market now.
Well, yeah, but this year's a wash.
I'm saying
no
this
point
year's a
doing that
wash.
this
But
year.
maybe next.
I mean,
year.
maybe next year, but considering the Texans didn't want to sign him, I don't think that any team really wants to sign him.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how he fell off that quickly. I mean,
well,
not
I
really
think he has a lot
related,
of emotional issues.
Maybe.
But I think that one you have to see. I think McCarthy will still be the head coach. I think you get a new defensive coordinator.
You think he's gonna get he's gonna keep?
I think he still will.
Do you want him to?
I'm not sure if I want him to, but I think he probably still will.
Oh, that'd be so stupid.
But if you think about it, they had no training camp.
Can he show me some potential though? He took the whole year off, and when they signed him.
But they had no training. They had nothing to practice on.
But I don't
in the
care.
beginning of the year.
I don't care because Mike McCarthy.
And it's not even like the offense has been bad, but the defense is one of the worst defenses in NFL history.
But
it's not just like
has
one
been
of the worst
horrible,
defenses. Well, I mean, the offensive now, yeah. I mean,
I'm just saying Mike McCarthy, when he was fired, he took a year off, right? And he wanted to do this whole like, I'm going to revamp my whole coaching style, my whole offense. And when the Cowboys hired him, everybody was like, not everybody, but a lot of people were like, all right, I like this hire because maybe he's not a Lincoln Riley, but I like this hire because Mike McCarthy has had all this time off where he's been able to, draw everything up, revamp everything, see everything he's done wrong and everything he can do better. And I think this will work out. And he's shown absolutely nothing so far. There's not been much I don't know if there's been anything that I'm like, wow, good job, Mike McCarthy.
I think there's things to back him up on why they haven't been playing so well. There's multiple things. One, there's no training camp. They had no like OTAs. They had no in-persons. They had nothing.
But nobody had it. Nobody had
You're
any
right,
of
but
that.
he's a head coach. He's a new head coach though, with a whole new coaching staff except for one person. There's a whole new coaching staff. Like, the defense was totally revamped. It's not even close to the same defense that they played for the last 8 years with Marinelli. It's a totally complete. It went from a 4-3 to a 3-4, and clearly no one on the defense likes standing up. That's what DeMarcus Lawrence said, that they don't like standing up, and so they want to be in a on the ground on the defensive line. Yeah. So I think that's a huge difference. But I think they'll have a new defensive coordinator. I would say they have to have, and McCarthy's also not calling plays. It's not like he's calling plays.
I wouldn't
It's
want
Kellen
that.
Moore
I don't like my head coach calling plays. So.
I don't mind my head coach calling plays, but it's also not his offensive coordinator. They kept Kellen Moore because Jerry Jones wanted to keep him.
I don't think.
And I don't have a problem with Kellen Moore, but I think it really depends on. I think McCarthy stays for next year. That's what I'll say. And I think they draft someone defensively. I think they need a safety or a cornerback. The linebackers are fine. Like Jalen's good. I don't like him just because he always seems to not make plays. Like he's always there and then just doesn't make the play. But that's like a nitpick. But him and Leighton, as long as they're healthy, they're fine. The defensive line's fine. It's just we need a better secondary. You'll
know
issue.
more than me about.
And I think
whether
Diggs
or not
is a good player. I don't know what you think about him, but I think he's pretty good. For a rookie, he gets burnt, but he at least he plays.
Showed promise.
From what I've seen the last 10 years from our cornerbacks, he's probably been the second best one behind Byron Jones. But he actually makes plays. Byron Jones didn't make plays.
I think he showed promise. I just think that maybe Mike McCarthy could be a little bit like I guess you'll know more than me about whether or not Mike McCarthy will actually stay. Like you probably read more about the local stuff and all that. They're going to be very tied in on that. I don't care whether he actually stays. I think he should be gone. You've had rookies on this team, like you've mentioned, show potential. And Mike McCarthy, I'd like to see some potential. The rest of the year is still going to happen. They still have 8 more games. I want to see something to convince me to not fire him. If the season ended today, I'm firing him.
Personally, look, I wouldn't mind either way, but unless you...
You're the Cowboys.
I just think it's unfair to him that he had, and look, no one had any training camp.
He took the job.
I know, but when he took the job, he didn't think there was going to be no training camp. Like COVID hadn't happened yet when he took the job.
Well, it had happened, but it wasn't to this extent. Maybe.
No, he took the job in like January.
Yeah.
The COVID wasn't a thing then.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't. That was in March.
Yeah, March is when we got like all kicked off campus and stuff. But that doesn't mean it wasn't a thing prior to that.
But they didn't realize that. If you really thought that in January people thought there was going to be no training camp,
I'm willing to admit that it was not nearly to this extent. But I don't care.
You're crazy.
Every single team.
You're
didn't
right.
have
Every
a training
single
camp.
team had that, but he's a head coach with a new team and a whole new system and a whole new staff. Like I just don't think you're realizing that. But you've had Belichick for 20 years.
No, I do realize
you're like
that.
You're trying to like make me feel better that he's like that we're doing so bad. I don't know why you're trying to make me feel like that. Your argument just doesn't make any sense.
No, it does make sense. We've had plenty.
It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, I understand he didn't have a training camp, but I don't care. I still don't care. I'm firing him if the season ended today. He's done nothing. He still had a year off before this. Not that he was like on the Cowboys, but it doesn't matter to me. Mike McCarthy had a very bad latter half of his career in Green Bay, and he's done nothing to make me think better of him in Dallas.
I think a little bit of that was on Rodgers, but that's
I'm not going to disagree with that, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a large part of the blame on Mike McCarthy too.
I'm not saying that either, but I just don't think you can fire. If this was a normal year and they finished 4-12, then I could say you could probably fire him. But I don't think you could fire him after this year. I just don't. Maybe next year, if they're 8-8 next year, then yes, you fire him. Even if they're like 9-7.
Let me give you some teams with first-year head coaches that have done much better than Mike McCarthy.
I know about those teams.
Kevin Stefanski,
Ron
Rivera
has his quarterback.
Ron Rivera. He doesn't have his quarterback. He has nothing. And he still played. And I'm not saying Ron Rivera's done an awesome job, but I'm just asking for a little bit of promise to make me want to not fire Mike McCarthy. Joe Judge hasn't given me that. I'll give you that. But Matt Rule has done a great job. Not a great job, but he's showed promise, and he's clearly showed that he's capable of coaching this team.
But I think most people saw that when he got hired, though.
But it doesn't matter. Why does that matter?
I just think that with Rule, I think it was more. I think that's just a little bit different of a situation than it was.
No, I don't think it is at all, though.
I think it is. And I think also you're just forgetting that like he doesn't have his quarterback. Like I think that just makes a huge difference when you don't have your quarterback. Even with them, they weren't good. But do you really think they'd be this bad if Dak was playing these last?
No, I don't think they'd be this bad. But I still don't think they'd be a great team or a good team. I still think I'd be willing to fire Mike McCarthy. That's for sure. I think if you had Ron Rivera, you'd be a lot better team right now. Maybe not a lot better, but at least better.
I'm not sure about that.
Maybe not a lot better, but Ron Rivera has showed promise, and he showed that he can lead this team, the Washington football team. When they get talent, he showed they can lead that team to a Super Bowl. Mike McCarthy hasn't showed that at all. He's shown nothing. I'm sorry.
All right, again, we could disagree all we want.
But I'm right.
Obviously, I think I'm right, but
you're not.
I think we're all right. Well, we're just gonna end it at that. I think whoever's listening, if you think I'm right, then you can just agree with me, and because you're obviously I'm right, so that means you're right if you agree with me. So
we'll get in after this. We're gonna take a quick minute ad break. After we'll get into a couple of the trades that happened. Obviously, the trade deadline isn't over yet, but some trades have happened. We'll get into that in a second. Back from the ad break, gonna talk about some of the trades that have happened so far before the trade deadline has expired. The first one I want to talk about is Quan Alexander being traded from the Niners to the Saints. Really, my take on it is, will the addition of Quan Alexander transform the Saints at all? Will it push them over the edge in any aspect? And my answer tells me no. I don't know how it necessarily could. It's still a good addition to the Saints defense. Quan Alexander, he's played well throughout his career, starting out in Tampa Bay, moving over to San Francisco. But, does he have anything left in him? I don't know.
Well, he's battled some injuries his last couple of years. He signed a big contract with the Niners, but I think if he could stay healthy, I think he's a pretty, I wouldn't say big addition, but I think he's a pretty good addition for the Saints defense.
I think Quan Alexander's peak, if he stays healthy, is like a low 80 overall player in Madden, if that makes sense. Like, what would I rate him? Like a low 80, like an 82.
I think he's a little bit better than that. I'd say like
85.
I'd say 85.
Maybe.
I think when he's healthy, he's pretty good. He just the problem is he's not healthy.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Maybe. I don't know. I like
He's not going to make like a huge addition to their defense. He's just going to
No.
be, he's just going to be good, I think.
Yeah, it's not a bad addition for a conditional 5th-round pick and Kiko Alonso. Like, I mean, why not at that point? But do I think this trade are the Saints going to win their division because of this trade? My answer is no. Are they going to win more playoff games than they would have anyways because of this trade? My answer is no. So it doesn't really change my view on either team, but I guess this trade is still something to note.
Yeah, and another trade that happened also was the Jets traded linebacker Avery Williamson to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jets received Pittsburgh's 5th-round pick in 2022, and the Steelers got obviously Williamson, and they got the Jets' 2022 7th-round pick. So Avery Williamson, he started his career with the Titans, then went to the Jets in 2018. He had a really good 2018, but he tore his ACL in 2019, so he missed all of last year. And he's come back this year, and he regained his starting position, I think, in week 2 or week 3. So he's coming back. I don't know if he's going to be able to repeat his 2018 season, but this trade really only happened because Devin Bush got injured and he's out for the entire year. So it's kind of just someone who could fill in for Devin Bush in their linebacker spot for Pittsburgh, and he's going to be sharing snaps. But if he can prove that he's maybe 80 to 90% of what he was in 2018, I think it's a pretty good addition for a defense that's one of the top defenses in the league, but could always use help, especially when you lose Devin Bush.
Yeah, no, I think this trade does a good job in not giving up a lot for a player who can potentially, if he plays like he should play, ideally, he can fill in for Bush. Definitely. I don't think it's a bad trade. I think, the trades that have happened so far are like not very big, but if it works out how the teams that are trading for these players want it to work out, it can be a very, very good ad. The last trade that happened, the Tennessee Titans traded for Desmond King from the Los Angeles Chargers for a 6th-round pick. To me, I mean, this is kind of like, I guess it's just kind of a flyer trade. You're just taking a flyer on Desmond King. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what to think about him.
Well, he was a former All-Pro, but I think it's more of just like a reinforcement, honestly, for the Titans. I think the Chargers, they were looking to trade him. I think they were kind of done with him, and he wasn't really happy with his playing time in Los Angeles. He's a slot corner, and they just for some reason really weren't playing him there. So I think he'll fit in just fine with the Titans, and I think he's not gonna be like a huge addition or anything like that, but I think he just adds to their defense where they've lost 2 games in a row, so they got to get back to winning. Tennessee does. So again, I mean, not crazy trades so far, but hopefully next time that we're on, which will be Friday, hopefully there will be some pretty big trades. That's at least what we're hoping for. I think the big trade that we're hoping for is Matt Ryan, but I'm not sure.
I'm hoping for Matt Ryan. I'm hoping for Julio Jones. I'm hoping for Golden Tate.
Yeah, I mean, will Golden Tate make that much of a difference on a team?
Well, I don't know.
Who knows? But
he's a skill position guy. He's been a very relevant person. Before he signed on the Giants, he played for the Eagles for that half. I don't know. I think it'd be fun to talk about him. Yeah, I know, but definitely hoping for Matt Ryan for Julio. I'm sure there's I guess I'm hoping for Gilmore. That'd be very interesting.
I think the biggest possibility is Gilmore.
Maybe.
I think Matt Ryan's a possibility, but I think it's definitely not as much as probably Gilmore is.
I don't think we see a lot of action this trade deadline. To be
I'd be
honest.
I'd be surprised if there's like a huge trade. But
I'd be surprised if any of the players we have mentioned so far get traded. Really, like Gilmore.
I would only say that Gilmore would be the only person.
Like, would you bet on Gilmore being traded? Me, no. I mean, we have like an hour, or like a day left. So
I wouldn't bet on it, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
I'd be pretty surprised on. I mean, that's just like me as a Patriots fan. Like, it's tough for me to not, since he's been such an important part of the team.
I just think you get value where you can get it, and you get value from Stephon Gilmore. So
Ryan Kerrigan's another name to note. He's been on the trade block. Not really much to say until if it happens, I guess. Like, we'll see where he goes, but just another name to note down. Maybe he gets traded to a team that needs pass rush, maybe like the Tennessee Titans or something like that. Before we wrap this up, I do want to just take a quick second to look back on our predictions from last week. I'm going to try to do this every single week. We'll go back on our predictions and see how we did. We both went 4-1 this week. It's pretty good. I personally, the one I got wrong was I took the Cowboys +8, and you took the Bills -4. Those are the ones we both got wrong, but all the other ones, Steelers, Ravens, we got right. Saints, Bears, we both got right. Niners, Seahawks, we both got right. So, yeah, just wanted to note that. It's pretty good, 4-1.
Yeah, and we're going to keep a track of our record, so at the end of the year we'll see who did better, but I think so far, I would probably say you're doing better than I am so far. I had to look at what the numbers are.
For next episode, I'll have a tally, and we'll see who has done better on the picks.
All right, so after we make our picks next week, you'll know what our records are.
Yeah. I'm curious to see, honestly. I do want to go back and check. I actually think I've done a decent job so far. I think I've done better than Collins Blazing 5. And I hate to talk about Collins sometimes on the show, but I do watch him, not a good amount, but I watch him. I watch a lot of his popular segments. He's done really bad on Blazing 5 so far this year. He's really bad. He's under 500.
Yeah, I was looking at one of the recent ones, and he's not doing so well this year.
No. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks for tuning in if you watched till the end. We'll be back Friday at about noon, I want to say. Yeah, Friday noon. Yeah, see you.